So let's talk about water. We hear a lot about running out of it, right? Water scarcity. But what if I told you there's a much sneakier crisis happening? It's not about the amount of water we have, but the actual quality of it. And this isn't some far off environmental thing. It's a real direct threat to our health, our economies, really our entire future.
I mean, think about it like this. Clean water is basically the operating system for civilization. And you just can't run all the important programs, public health, a growing economy, a stable ecosystem on a corrupted OS. It just doesn't work. When water quality goes down, it's like a virus that introduces these huge risks everywhere. It can totally wreck supply chains, mess up entire communities, and become this massive headache for both governments and big companies.
Okay, so let's try to get our heads around just how big this problem is. The numbers, and these are coming from places like the UN and the World Health Organization, they're not just a little concerning. They're genuinely staggering. It's a full-blown crisis, no question about it.
Let's start with the most basic thing imaginable: safe drinking water. Right now, 2.1 billion people don't have it. That's more than a quarter of everyone on the planet. I mean, just stop and think about that for a second. The daily struggle for that many people. And if you think that's bad, look at sanitation. The number here is it's almost hard to believe. 4.5 billion. That's over half the world's population without decent sanitation. This isn't just about it being inconvenient. It's a constant threat to their health, and honestly, it's a massive blow to human dignity.
And this is where it gets truly heartbreaking. Every single year, 340,000 kids under 5 years old die from things like diarrhea. We're not talking about some complex, incurable disease here. These are deaths that are almost completely preventable. All it would take is clean water and basic hygiene, stuff so many of us just don't even think about.
And it's not just a human tragedy. It's an absolute environmental disaster happening right in front of us. Get this, a whopping 80% of all the wastewater we create, from our sinks, our farms, our factories, it gets dumped straight back into nature with zero treatment. None. Just imagine that happening day in and day out all over the world.
So here's the key takeaway from all this. We talk a lot about water scarcity, right? The fear that we're going to run out of water. But that's only half the picture. The other half, the part that's just as scary, is the quality of the water we actually have. It's being polluted and degraded constantly. So how did we even get to this point? What's putting all this pressure on our water? All right, let's break it down. Let's look at the anatomy of this pollution problem. It's really like a perfect storm of pressure from a few different places. First up, you've got more and more people moving into cities, which just concentrates all the demand and all the pollution. Then there's agriculture, which already uses a staggering 70% of our water, and it's only getting more intense. Our industries and power plants are also incredibly thirsty. And then, layered on top of all of that, you have climate change, just making everything worse, making droughts drier and floods bigger. Okay, so if we're going to fix this, we have to know where the pollution is actually coming from. It basically falls into two buckets. You've got point sources, which are pretty easy to spot, like a single pipe dumping waste from a factory. You can literally point to it. But the real monster, the biggest cause of pollution, is non-point sources. This is way trickier. It's pollution that comes from all over the place, like fertilizer runoff from huge farm fields or all the gunk that washes off city streets when it rains. And this visual shows it perfectly. See that pipe from the factory? That's your classic point source, nice and obvious. But then look at everything else. The runoff from the farm, the stuff seeping out from the town. That's the non-point pollution. It's coming from everywhere, all flowing downhill right into our water, which makes it a total nightmare to control.
So what happens when all this junk gets into our water? Well, it sets off this chain reaction of really bad consequences. Let's look at a couple of the big ones. How it can make entire ecosystems just collapse, and the direct danger from toxic chemicals. First up, let's talk about how we get these terrifying dead zones in the water. It all starts with too many nutrients. Think nitrogen and phosphorus from farm fertilizers washing into a lake or the ocean. This stuff is basically junk food for algae. It causes this huge, explosive algae bloom. But then, when all that algae dies, the bacteria that decompose it suck up all the oxygen in the water. That's called hypoxia. And without oxygen, the whole ecosystem just suffocates. It dies.
And don't think this is some rare freak occurrence. We're now seeing these nasty algal blooms in half of all the lakes in Europe, Asia, and North America. And some of the dead zones in the ocean, like the one in the Gulf of Mexico, can get as big as a small country. Just massive.
Okay, so that's the ecosystems. Now let's talk about a direct toxic threat to us, to people. We're going to look at arsenic. It's basically an invisible poison that's gotten into the groundwater for millions and millions of people.
So arsenic can get into water naturally from rocks, but things like mining and industry can really speed up the process. The worst-case scenario, really the most catastrophic example, is in Bangladesh. It's literally the largest mass poisoning in human history. Over 77 million people were exposed through their well water, leading to just horrible health issues. Cancer, heart disease, you name it.
And here's the really scary part. You can't see arsenic. You can't taste it. You can't smell it. The only way to know it's there is to test for it. That means the only way to fight it is to be proactive, systematically testing groundwater and then having a plan to deal with it. Waiting until people get sick is just not an option. All right, next up is another nasty heavy metal with a really grim history, mercury.
The thing about mercury that's so terrifying is how it builds up in the food chain. It gets released from things like burning coal, it gets into the water, and then it bioaccumulates. So a little fish gets a tiny bit, a bigger fish eats a bunch of those little fish, and so on, all the way up. By the time it gets to the fish that we eat, the mercury levels can be super high and cause really serious nerve damage. The tragedy in Minamata, Japan is the ultimate warning about this. And today, if you're a company, any kind of mercury pollution is a huge red flag for investors.
Okay, I know, we've just gone through a lot of really heavy, frankly depressing stuff. It's easy to feel a little hopeless. But there is good news. There are clear ways to fix this, so let's shift gears and talk about the solutions, the blueprint for action that's all about smart strategies and cool new innovations.
Look, there's no single silver bullet here. We have to attack it from all sides. It all starts with better rules and better monitoring, so we actually have a clue what's in our water in the first place. It means we gotta invest in new wastewater treatment plants and actually enforce the rules on industries. And maybe most importantly, we have to change how we think, getting away from this use it once and dump it idea, and moving to a circular system where we reuse and recycle water as much as possible, using new tech like AI to help us do it smartly.
And this is the really cool part. The innovation happening right now is giving us some amazing new tools. We're talking about using nature itself, like restoring wetlands that act as these incredible free water filters. We have smart sensors and IoT devices that give us data in real time so we can stop problems before they start. And we've got amazing new tech like advanced filters and solar-powered desalination that are just total game changers for making clean water affordable and available.
So for any businesses or governments listening, the bottom line is this. Taking care of water isn't just about doing the right thing or some PR move anymore. In a world where water is getting riskier and more scarce, managing it smartly and sustainably is a straight-up competitive advantage. It's just good business.
Which kind of leaves us with one big question, right? We know water, our most essential resource, is in serious trouble. We also know we have the technology and the strategies to fix it. So the real question is, are we actually going to do it? Are we going to meet this challenge with the kind of urgency and creativity it absolutely demands?